Yes, you did, Gino.
Okay, I'm calling the meeting to order at 4:03, as we have all but Frank here. We have enough things on the agenda. I don't know if there's anything that we have to change the agenda. That's anything in the emergency in the last 48 hours. Okay, I'm going to say the agenda's there and do get our perfunctory stuff out of the way. Hold on, where is it here? I'm just trying to find the my minutes here. Oh, there we go. I'm going to pull up the minutes so we can get through that and share screen. People see a set of minutes up there?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I guess now that before we even review the minutes, I guess we have to pick on somebody who's going to take the minutes.
I don't think I've done it for a while, so I can take it.
Good. Thank you for, we don't have to go through some agonizing retracing of who did what when. Okay. Here's the first screen of the minutes.
I hope I wasn't overzealous detail. Frank, I think it's like a attribute of new members. I know Frank was very detailed as well, and you probably get a little more jaded as time goes on.
You'll learn.
Yeah, that's right. We didn't have as much. I spared dropping a lot of the back and forth about a few things, but yes, we could do with less detail, I think.
Okay, all right, sounds good. I will make sure to do that next time around.
So any comments on the screen here from anybody? I guess I think I sent out this thing without the edits to A that Gino gave.
Yeah, that's new, but that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm fine now.
I'm fine.
Okay.
Yep, fine.
I reviewed these, so I'm fine with this page.
Okay. I'll wait to hear murmurings from others.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, same for me.
Brad, are you okay, or do you want to read a little? You're okay,
Neither
Brad?
mine, so.
Oh, okay.
I'm good with them.
No, I was just saying the edits. Maybe you want to.
You can fight back.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah, I'm not touchy.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Yep, good.
I'm going to make a change here. We will have. Oops.
Good.
Yeah, everything's good.
Yep, good.
Okay, we got the 13th meeting there. Fine, Alt file, save. I move that we approve the minutes as edited.
Second.
Somebody seconded, it's not that we need to know. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Michael, I, Tom,
Aye.
Andy,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye,
Fred.
aye.
Hi.
Oh, Brett. Okay. I can't
Oh,
tell Brad. I
We've
thought I
done
heard
this
something.
before. where
You
Sorry,
guys
I
I
have
just
to
didn't
did
hear
it
me.
for-
Don't
for
tease me,
Brad.
guys.
For Brad, yeah. As proxy for Brad, I say yay.
I'm good with that.
Well, we haven't got through that vote. I'm sure that's a real legal one. Okay. Minutes approved, 5-0. Okie dokie. Now, let me get rid of that. So it's not- Okay. In terms of the major things for this meeting is we want to talk about the All in Energy MOU and the Mass Save stuff. Have a beginning discussion of the town warrant article and how we're going to go there. And then there's catching up on other stuff like some of the climate action plan. And there might be other odds and ends. Dorothy or Gino might want to update us on some things.
Okay.
So I don't know whether to just jump right into the MOU. Does that seem reasonable, or we want to do
Sure.
small stuff? I'm going to share a screen about, let's see, is this the right one? Let's see, this might be the wrong one. I'll show all windows. Okay, I think this will be the right one because okay, yeah, this is the right one. This has, and I don't have Brad's thing here, but whether we want to, Brad had put some stuff on the second paragraph we can come back to, or maybe I'll pull that one up separately.
Did you get my comments?
Yeah,
Michael?
this is yours.
Oh, okay.
They don't recognize it.
Okay.
You see two colors here, and I didn't get a chance to copy in Brad. Let's see. Trying to find where I had Brad's thing for the second paragraph. Damn, maybe it's just in my emails.
Shot it to you pretty early this morning around 8 a.m.
What's that?
I emailed it to you around 8 a.m.
Yeah, right. No,
morning.
I thought I didn't. Oh, yeah, I have it here. There. And I'm just going to do a little. Let's see. Okay. Done. Got rid of that. Okay, so now I've got everybody's. Do I have to talk about the gist of the major thing of this thing? I mean, the major stuff is separate from all the main meat of it, or really the purposes of it here. And then what each the expectations of each party. So I'd rather just go into those three things, and then we can go back to any other little wordsmithing. Is everybody clear and okay about the purposes and advantages of this collaboration? In terms of what the thinking has been from with Dorothea and Fred and I, who are part of working on this, was to, we don't have a town administrator at the moment, or soon not to have one.
Hey, Michael, I was not aware of that. Is Dave Williams leaving?
Yes,
Oh.
he's leaving, I think, as of
Tomorrow.
tomorrow might be his last day.
No
officially.
kidding.
There's been ongoing
What-
negotiations with him for many months to a year, which I guess culminated in the idea of him. He's basically leaving, and there's somebody who might come in as a temporary town manager while they go to look to hire. So the issue of whether a town administrator could sign it per se versus whether we, I think once we get this, once we finish something, the discussion I think, was that Dorothea would go talk to some members of the select board about how to proceed, whether this is something they need to sign, whether we need the select board approval, whether the energy committee could do it on its own since there's no cost implications, or whether we want the select board anyway to sign on this so they know what's going on. Whatever. She'll carry this thing forward and deal with the select board and figure out how to proceed and whether there's going to be any changes. Even before that, though, we still have to go back to All in Energy because this was based on a draft of something that they prepared and worked on with the town of Acton. And then we added and edited a few things here or there. Like we added this whole purposes and advantages, and we edited and changed a little bit of the expectations. So after this, after we approve, assuming we approve this, work out something, then we can go back to All in Energy, make sure they're okay with it, and then proceed as I was just talking. Any comments on the purpose and advantages of this collaboration? Whoops.
I wonder if I can just either suggest something be added or just ask the question. My assumption, everything, this is directed towards residents.
And some businesses. There is a business component, it seems.
Okay, but not town buildings.
Right.
But I wonder if, is that clear at the beginning or somewhere?
What we have here is that it's launching a residential and small business program.
You got it. Thank you.
Sure. That was good. You can answer that one. I'll keep that.
What kind of marketing, Michael, will All in Energy provide? I mean, to me, that seems to be the most important purpose of this from the town's perspective, because people could call Mass Save on their own, but we need assistance in getting the word out to residents to do so. So is there something else important that we would get from this?
Mm-hmm.
What's that, Dorothea?
That's a very good question, Andy, because initially, if you look through this document, you think this is just about the marketing, but I think what Michael's intention was in the beginning to have some quality control on the audit or on the home energy assessment itself. Remember, we had a lot of, we had complaints heard from some people here in town that, the audits themselves were not detailed enough or were not looking at the home and finding really the low-hanging fruit, like the weatherization stuff in the basement, for example. And some of the contractors would just, do the obvious and then basically be out of the house as quickly as possible.
Oh, I see.
Whereas this now is something where All in Energy will work with a home performance contractor that fits the needs that we have. And it more says about the purposes and advantages of this program is the providing of the improved quality control and the assessment and implementation. So once we have that home performance contractor that we prefer in the home, we will also get some data back from that visit that's important for us to work with the resident further on their road to a better home in the future. And we will get that and collect the data, and it will come to us rather than just to Mass Save, and it will help us to stay connected with the homeowner.
Well, that was good. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Jump in, Brad.
Dorothea, so with their quality control, is that through their vetting ahead of time of contractors, or do they then kind of go in after the work's been done to confirm that it's to their standards?
Prior to, so in the last 3 weeks or so, Fred, Michael, and I were able to interview all home performance contractors that are currently under contract with Mass Safe. And we have met with them and asked them if they were open to work with us in the ways that help us best. And we found one company called Nico that is basically doing just the assessment and installation work, but is not necessarily doing selling kind of like air source heat pumps, ground source heat pumps, and solar at the same time. So we get the feeling that this company is a good fit for us, and what their main kind of like conversation will be is like helping the homeowner to understand, you know, here is an opportunity for you to even put in more insulation so that a air source heat pump could work really well for your home. Or a conversation on like, I see that you have a south facing roof, it could be the perfect fit for you, you know, if you're planning for an electric car, or if you're planning to put in an air source heat pump. So this kind of like educated employee of Nico will then point to opportunities in the house where the homeowner could do more and could eventually link in a couple of things further down the road, right? So that's the idea that's behind it in terms of quality control. So
I want to be clear about one thing. I'm going to do a little different slant than what you did, Dorothea, because that the quality control is partly because All in Energy works with about 3 or 4 home performance contractors that are called HPCs who actually go out and do the work. Since we're not doing that as a procurement or as a RFQ or this or that, we've interviewed them all and they're all good. So in terms of the quality control, we've expressed some, and All in Energy will make some recommendations based on which one to use based on the kind of interest they see from the people calling in. It'll probably be more likely 1 or so of them that might get most of the Sherborn residents. And so we're trying to be careful with the fact that we don't want to be having to go out to go through this whole formal process. And therefore, we're leaving it to All in Energy. We've expressed our preferences to them, and this is what they normally do, is that they make choices as to who to do it. But we've expressed the kind of things that we want to see from them so that they can make a good decision. And I do want to add that I believe that they do some follow-up quality control after the fact as well, that they do call up some residents and others to go check on how the audit went. So there is that kind of quality control at that end as well. And so
you mean All in Energy, right? All
in Energy does that. And the fact that the access to the data and everything else is unique, we wouldn't get this otherwise. What I wanted to come back here is, I don't know whether Fred's, just so you know, Fred lost his Wi-Fi and is trying to get back in. The thing that I'm trying to think of, it seems like they might be able to give us, and the All in Energy expectations they have below, this is language they had, that they would design some materials for us to use as mailers. I'm going to go back. I'm going back to the second bullet on the purposes and advantages, which is probably presuming too much. We're not sure. We might get support from them to actually pay for some marketing, but it's like we can't guarantee that up front. So therefore, I want to reword let's see whether to just call this access to.
Well, Michael.
I was going to change it to access to marketing materials as well. I guess I'm going to try to do this.
Take out no cost.
Materials. Access to marketing materials at no cost. But I'm trying to think of also access to marketing materials at no cost for the overall program. And I guess I'll leave it vague. I mean, I was going to try to think of adding in the fact that there's possibly some marketing cost support.
Okay.
I don't know whether to add that. What were you going to say?
Sorry for interrupting.
No.
As laid out in point number 2, further down, design promotional materials for town use, such as emails, letters, handout posters, and banners. That's the kind of thing that they will provide us with.
Yeah, but in the conversations they had, sorry, in the conversations we had with All in Energy, sometimes they can get some marketing monies to actually get out the materials. It was my understanding. I don't think we were guaranteed it, but there was the hope that that they might get something. And I don't know how much to put this here, but maybe I'll just leave it. I won't talk about it here, and if we get it, fine.
Yeah.
Although, Michael, can I ask one quick question? Yeah. Are you suggesting they can actually mail to our residents, pay postage?
Right, or they might support, right, or they might support our mailing or give us some funding for it.
Okay.
So that came up in discussions, except I don't know whether to, I don't know whether we can guarantee it at this point, other than it seemed likely.
And Michael, I have a question. The access to marketing material at no cost, you have a limitation that it's for the overall program. Can they do marketing at no cost for one aspect?
Well, we're going to come up with one of the things we talked about is that we would come up with a handout about ourselves, about what we do and options to follow up on, things that are broader than Mass Save, that whoever does the audit will hand out. So we'll get more materials directly into the hands of people who actually then sign up and get an audit.
Okay.
So that's now. Yeah, I guess maybe we'll just be silent about whether we'll get free. Let's see, wow. Actually, Fred's lost his phone connection. I don't know what's going on.
Oh my God.
Maybe there's something rolling through town. Hopefully it won't spread to us. So yeah, I didn't put in the fact that this gives us also a way to get access to handing out materials too, but this doesn't have to cover everything and anything and everything. Okay, so I guess, well, we cleaned up all the purposes. Yeah, and I mean, we could always change this later too, and who knows what'll come out of talking to the select board or anybody else. And right, obviously, this is the minimum of it all, and we'll be working with them to see how things go. I mean, part of the whole dialogue with All in Energy is to see how it goes, see how they recommend, how the performance how the people do the audits, check on how the audits are going, see what we like, maybe come up with more materials to hand out, see what materials make a difference, see what it means when we check ourselves, because we're going to get the contact information for these people, and Dorothy and others could be following up, and we'll learn about it, and then we'll have a feedback loop, which is what this whole arrangement here creates us the ability to have that sort of feedback loop and improvements.
Will they offer any information to residents if they have questions on rebates to
Yes.
various technologies, green
That's
technologies.
important. That's an important part of it. There's a whole handout about rebates and incentives.
Okay.
That's part of their,
Yeah.
the HPC people who go in and do the audits and then really focus on insulation, they have linkages to other people for doing solar and for doing heat pumps and doing that. So there's an incentive for them to try to promote those things. And it's supposed to be somewhat independent, although they all have their preferred clients, like for solar. One group has one solar group they like to send referrals to. They'll say, here, there's a lot of companies who do solar. Here's one or two that we work with that you can go use as a starting point. So it's on they themselves, it's on that edge of sort of being independent and suggesting it, but they give some ideas.
Great. Yeah, I just didn't know if like the scope of their mass save information was restricted to weatherization and insulation.
No, it isn't, but they are part of the reason we work with All in Energy and then with their people is that their group, they're willing to talk about bigger things like the mass save audit I had a year or two ago. The whole idea of climate change and just sort of addressing that issue was just not part of the repertoire. It's like it was just not in their agenda for bringing up. Whereas in this case here, when people call up, we're going to have All in Energy ask them whether, even up front, it's going to be asked at 2 levels. When they call in to schedule it, we're going to say, well, besides getting the audit and dealing mass save, are you possibly interested in these other things? Like improved air, like you're going to redo your heating system, your air conditioning, or solar, and whether you are interested in renewable energy based electricity. We're going to ask people about it, so we'll just know who might have a broader interest, which is different from what a normal procedure.
That's great.
And it turns out that the contractors themselves also ask that too. So we'll get it at 2. So we'll get it at 2 levels, basically, and All in Energy will sort of collect it from the contractor too, so that we'll get some leads as to what people are interested in. Yeah,
because I do feel like there's going to be some unsolicited requests for this information from residents.
Yeah.
As this is going on, and it's great that like they do expect that and have those resources ready to share.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And we'll get their contacts too, so that we could follow up based on who looks the most interested in doing more things. So does anybody have any issues with what we see on the screen now, or suggestions or changes?
Looks good to me. Now, and this is a document you got from All in Energy that they used with Acton. Is that correct, Michael?
It is, but it started with Acton, but and Wayland is doing something similar.
Oh, okay.
And Wayland's working on it too. And there's some changes. We dropped some things that we didn't think were so relevant. We added more stuff like in here.
Right.
And we added that whole purposes and advantages section. So some of it, so it's been Sherbornized, and and we'll see whether we learn. I'll be curious to see what they do in Wayland, whether we'll get some feedback from them, whether they, I mean, I don't think that there's anything. The 3 towns are sort of doing this. If we find any improvements that one town finds some angle as we're doing this, then it'll get incorporated for all the towns. So we're all going to. Is
there a term, a length of time that this agreement will, last for?
Well, that's
or
an interesting issue. I guess we can. Maybe we should add a clause that this can be terminated with by either party with 15 days notice or something like that.
Right.
Maybe we do need a. I mean, we want to
try to that or a date and a renewal clause or something.
Yeah,
or both. Or both.
Trying to keep it. We're trying to keep it. We're trying to think that it would be done kind of as an aggressive big push at once. This MOU can be, is it terminated? Seems so.
How about amended or terminated?
Amended or terminated either.
Well, excuse me, I should take that back. If it's amended, then both parties
Oh,
have
yeah.
to agree to it.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, lawyer.
Yeah.
15 days notice.
Sure. Sure.
15 days. Is that an apostrophe notice?
No,
It's
no
just 15
apostrophe.
days. Do we hyphenate it?
No. Well, it can be, but it doesn't need to be.
Oh, got to get this stuff straight. Okay, that's a good point.
And we're really not on the hook for any sort of like, I don't know, financial commitments, it seems.
Oh yeah,
Right.
not even, there's not even, we're saying we have to use them exclusively because what got put in
Yeah.
the title here, if you look at the title, it's called for a non-exclusive collaboration.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're,
it's-
so in a way, we can go, either one could go on their own way or do their own thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Seems pretty low
And
risk.
it's an MOU, it's not a contract.
Right. And they get it from the overall program. Mass Save incentivizes both the scheduler and the HPC. There's some funding that goes, and this is the program that's, this Mass Save, which is funded by the utilities, is funded by the little energy conservation surcharge that you have on our electricity bills. This is where a bunch of that money, most of that money is going, is into this Mass Save, and Mass Save in turn gives money to the HPCs and the schedulers. So that there's some, that's how they survive on this besides getting the business.
Do you happen to know how much each of them gets?
No. I haven't wanted to delve into that. It's not, there's not a lot for each referral that they get and stuff like that. And then, yeah, and so, and there's, I don't know if it's a gray area of to what extent the HPC people, when they do they mainly do installation, if they say, here's a lead, they might feed some leads to some solar company. Whether it's unclear whether they get any money for that or not.
Well, hopefully they don't.
Yes, they don't seem to, but it's not like the, and what we always tell people is that you get a few bids or you talk to a few people that, would be a little, you'd be advised to look a bit bigger. Let's come back to the beginning then of the idea of whether we want to add something about I don't know how much. I mean, I know Wayland was going to add some paragraph about Wayland. I'm not sure what we want to add up front here, if anything.
I mean, it seems detailed enough, long enough already.
Yeah, no, I could believe that we don't have to add anything. This first line here was just something I stuck in here just to say, I mean, I don't know whether we need to stand in something that whether we really need to put in something, maybe what we're missing is something about Mass Save. I don't know, that's a new angle. I don't know what you think, Dorothea. We just want to explain that Mass Save is a program funded by the utilities. Or whether we don't need anything here and we don't have to get into all of it. I mean, this is what Brad suggested as another.
Yeah. And I can go either way on that. Like,
yeah, right. I mean, obviously it's not.
What would be the purpose of doing that?
I'm not sure. Oh,
yeah, who's our audience for this?
I would imagine, it's really ostensibly for the town of Sherborn, like the select board and us, and All In Energy. I mean, that's pretty much
Okay.
it. It's not a marketing piece for
Yeah.
the community.
No.
So then I guess that's kind of, my suggestions really aren't that beneficial then.
So, I mean, the only thing is whether we put something in here on mass save for the select board's knowledge. That basically it's funded by the utility, and they fund the schedulers and the HPCs. Do we need a sentence
So I
like
thought I
that?
saw that somewhere in this document.
Yeah, there's further down.
All in energy, okay.
Yeah,
Community outreach,
yeah.
oh yeah, mass
Right.
save,
And it's,
compensated through mass save, which is,
Yeah.
okay, fine. Oh yeah, that's a sentence I stuck.
Yeah, yeah,
I
you
forgot
got
all
it.
about it.
You got it right there.
Okay. Oh, well, good, I was smart back then. So maybe we don't need anything here.
No, I don't think
Oh.
so. Keep it simple.
yeah.
Exactly.
The better is my,
Okay, so the
Well, I
only
agree.
question thing is we have to go check into this. This was in the Acton one, the small business turnkey program. Whether we need to include, whether we want to explicitly include it or not, we were going to go look into what that is. If we're all fine, then I would, let's see, we still have a quorum. I suddenly realized this, we got 4 of us.
Yeah, sorry, my internet connection
Ah,
died.
he's back.
Hey, he's
Well,
back and better than ever.
Back in better.
Frank's here now too.
Oh,
Hey,
Hey,
I
Frank.
made it finally.
Hey, Frank.
So I was going to suggest that that I would move to, or somebody could move to approve working with All In Energy and the select board on the signing of this MOU and allowing appropriate changes as needed in that process. That makes sense as a motion, so that every little thing doesn't have to come back to us. It's supposed to, well, since we're not signing this, or we could be signing it if they give us approval.
And Michael, you suggested, sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
So just to be sure, we're going to present this to the select board with the question if the select board thinks we can handle, this could be handled by the EC and the sustainability coordinators, or if they feel like this has to be put in front for vote on them, right?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can figure it out, but
So this could be potentially signed by ESC members and the coordinators as well.
right.
Good.
But
if
okay.
Yeah.
So we're
But
basically recommending this whole, we're basically, as a committee, we're recommending this approach and this particular MOU with changes as needed. I guess I'm moving that.
Second.
Whoever seconded it, I can't tell, but
Andy, I think.
okay.
Yeah, I did.
Any discussion?
Just to clarify the motion,
Yeah,
it's to approve you working with the select board and the interim town administrator.
I think we're gonna go. I don't know whether, I was just assuming that we go work with the select board, which the town administrator sits underneath. But
I'm just trying to record it for the minutes. That's all.
oh yeah. I guess it's to work with the select board. I think it's just at this point probably just with the
Okay.
select.
Yeah, I suggest the same thing, guys. We probably wait on if we want an interim town administrator to sign off on this. It's going to be longer, and we want to move this quickly, right?
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, they could be doing this as we speak anyway. It's nothing holding us back from doing this stuff, but yeah. So it's working there, and I guess we also have to go back to All In Energy too, but that's presumed, I guess. So do you have a clear enough motion? What do you have as a motion for the minutes?
Motion to approve the wording of this MOU with select board and All In Energy, and to make any required changes.
Okay. Sounds good enough at the moment. Who knows when I read the minutes. Right. It's to work with, yeah, I mean, I'd say to work with. It's basically approving the MOU and to work with the select board and All In Energy on getting final approval. Okay, Michael, aye. Fred?
Aye.
Frank?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
And Tom?
Aye.
Okay, 6-0. Okay, we'll figure out, work with this thing here. Alt file. This. Okay, let me stop sharing. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Sorry, I'm just saving the file. Okay, Dorothea, I'll work with a little cleaning up and send you something that then you can take on with Gabe first, I think, and whatever, but we could talk about it. Okay,
Yeah,
just remind me if I don't get it to you.
Okay.
And okay, now there's the Citizens Petition that please ask the host to give you permission to record. Is that something I should know about? It just popped up for me, Gino.
Thought it was already recording.
Yeah, it's already recorded.
Okay, beats me. So there's, so now like there's a they call it student initiated, but I guess the town will call it a citizens petition. That I don't know what at this point whether we all, let's go turn on light here.
I don't think we have any real opportunity to do anything but agree on this and provide support. It's already been submitted. The date for submission has passed. You know, if we start trying to backtrack or tinker or whatever, I think it undercuts the whole incentive that the students have for doing this in the first place. I think it's let them run with it and get full credit for it. And you know, yeah, I have some problems with some of the language in it, but let it go.
I have to agree with Andy. These kids are putting it together. They're learning the process. They had to go through town hall and figure out forms and get petitions. And so it really is theirs. And I agree with Andy. There's some language in there that I wouldn't have put in, but that's the way it goes.
Right.
I think we just have a general motion of support.
I agree with that, Fred.
Are the students then gonna literally carry the ball and go to advisory and select board and present it, and defend it, and
yeah, Joanne is guiding them. I'm guiding them as well to do precisely that. And that they need to come up with a campaign. You can't just put this in front of people at town meeting without them ever hearing about it or being educated about it. So the kids they're doing a good job. And they're very eloquent. They'll do well in front of the select board, but they expect to go in front of the select board.
I think they would end up being our best advocates for this.
I agree. I haven't read it carefully. I guess I would, I mean, changes can be made to this. They can decide to make changes. I guess I would, we can do it as individuals or as, I don't know, if, as individual residents, we can make comments on it. I'm not sure if I have any real, I'm not talking about style or scope things, but whether like, I don't know whether to say, for example, I mean, there's maybe some technical or scope issues, but I don't know whether to say that, like, ungenerated greenhouse gas inventory, whether to say that to give them the inventory that Dorothea did and see what they think of it, and to see whether they would want to build on that and say that and recognize that there is a greenhouse gas inventory to help guide, that there's a greenhouse gas inventory to guide some of the work.
And I think it would also inform them as they're talking to the select board or to other groups to have that inventory and have the data from that be really useful.
Yeah, no, that's why I think that there could be some suggestions that we can make as either as individuals or as a committee, I don't care which way, that to walk through this thing and whether we compile something of saying, here is an inventory, or work with, I'll let Dorothea do it with Joanne, since Dorothea does, you sit in on the task force and you know these kids. Whether we work through Dorothea to give any comments and ideas like that, to say, here's something that's in place, or here's something that some other suggestion. I'm trying to think of more technical rather than the fact that this is a little broader, and the fact that it's called, I guess, an environment. It's a climate and ecological emergency.
Michael, could you back up and tell me the genesis of this? I mean, what we saw last week was a very short warrant article.
No, this was part of that. I had sent you this too.
Really?
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't recall seeing.
I thought I tried to. There were two separate files. There were two separate files. One was the petition itself, and this was the supporting document underneath that.
Okay, and is it the same as what you're showing us now?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, okay, but it's already been submitted, right?
Yeah, but people make edits to their
you can make
edits to their warrant article all the time.
Okay.
It's not it's like even to town departments. It's like they say, get in a placeholder for a warrant article.
Oh, I see.
Kind of like
Thank you.
It's up until they print that booklet, you know, that comes out for the annual town meeting up until that point. Because as they're having meetings and as they're having, you know, Bloody Saturday or whatever that's called, you know, they're fine tuning and working things out and adjusting and changing things.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, for the most part, the whereas paragraphs to me look fine. And again, I don't want to steal their thunder. I do agree with you, Michael, that one paragraph about the greenhouse gas inventory, perhaps they should be informed of the existence of it and see if there's a way that they may want to amend that one small paragraph to acknowledge it, and see if there's, you know, maybe they want to get involved in fine tuning it.
It does already say where when it asks about generating that, if it doesn't already exist. So they are acknowledging that it's possible that it exists.
Well, yeah, but they're leaving that open. Well, in reality, guys, it does exist.
If you scroll up, Michael, it says already in the first paragraph here. Yeah. All the things that were done instantly. Like at the bottom, it says here, for calculating a townwide greenhouse gas, and I'm currently preparing a townwide climate action plan. So the first paragraph.
Which paragraph are you talking about?
Oh, yeah, it's the third paragraph.
Third paragraph. Oh, yeah, with all the underline. Okay.
It says greenhouse gas inventory in there. So I think this is an editing mistake that they just, you know.
Didn't delete that subsequent paragraph.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
I mean, these are the kind of things that I would suggest that the students come to one of our meetings and we go through this. You know, can I ask a stupid question or maybe play the devil's advocate? You know, I could see a select board member or a resident early in hearings or later at town meetings say, hey, we have an energy and sustainability committee. We have sustainability coordinators. We got this covered already. Why, you know, why is this necessary? So
I'd have a good answer for that. And that is, yes, there is that committee, but this just declares that it should be a priority for the whole town.
Exactly. Thank you for saying this, Andy, because if we go forward with the climate action plan, it's, you know, the energy committee can help with that, but it's going to be embraced by the entire town. And we have to find a way how we form a committee that takes that forward and make that a priority. So
does anybody know for a request like this, and actually, can you go to the very top? Where is it?
This is the very top.
Oh, that is the very top. So the proponents are asking the town to adopt this. Is that a 50% vote or 2/3?
50%.
Okay, so that's good. That's a much lower.
I mean, I don't know if they looked at a lot of towns have done this in the area, and we talked about it ourselves a few months ago about whether we wanted to do it this year or next year, because it's a way to force everybody to be engaged in the issue, is what I used to argue, is that it's a way, okay, once you have to bring this up, then people who even don't normally think about it have to actually think about it and vote. And then we start bringing in people who aren't the choir. So it's an interesting tool. I mean, this is, in a sense, forcing it a year early. I thought of that. We had delayed, and therefore we could just do it next year after this, basically, but it's here. And so it's a good tool for forcing discussion about the whole issue there and people's commitment to it.
I think it also came out of the frustration what happened in the last COP 2026, right?
Yeah.
The mounting kind of evidence that, you know, the biggest polluters were not coming to the table with really substantive reduction goals. And I think that galvanized this very much, this kind of declaration.
So that's the Tom's idea, whether we invite some of the, I don't know how many students are working on this.
Well, I'm sure Ellie would come. She's the one who's kind of spearheading it from the student side.
Do we want to talk it through? Do we want to come up with a little idea? As individuals, we can come up with ideas and funnel them to Dorothea. Like, do you want to change it for this? I don't know if I'd have any more technical things like in the list of things here or some other angles.
Can you scroll down, Michael?
Yeah.
And I wonder as well, is it a matter of us helping them edit it? Or is it more a matter of them coming and talking to us about how they intend to do it and us giving them advice and counsel?
Exactly.
I like that thread as both. And a third thing, get them used to presenting in front of boards.
Absolutely.
Like they're going to have to advisory in the select board.
Yep.
It could be a dry run in some regards.
Yep. I like that because they are new to this. They're learning as they're going.
Yeah. It's a lot for somebody that age.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, I would also say that you know, it could be asked by advisory and select board. Have you spoken to our energy sustainability committee, and what are their thoughts on this? And you know, have they looked through this? And so, you know, I think that working together with them on this, that, you know, yes, it's still theirs. They're still presenting it, but that they consult with us and that they do, you know, that we do support this and have helped them with this so that they're, you know, at least advisory and select board don't have to look at this for, you know, are there really any glaring issues of something that, you know, should be checked out?
Well, you know, we have to acknowledge the fact, at least among ourselves, that there's no teeth to this warrant article. There's nothing requiring anybody really to do anything except that it should become a priority. You know, having you know, businesses, the town and homeowners, they have to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions, is fiscally and technologically possible. You know, everybody can disagree on what that envisions or encompasses. So, you know, it doesn't require anybody to do anything. It's really just, this is a priority, and I think we should just let that go just as it is.
You think so? As opposed to, I mean, obviously, I mean, I think they took some of this. I'm just realizing they probably took some of this from Needham because they forgot to change Needham at the very last.
Yeah. Let's get rid of Needham, please.
I mean, but I think it'd be an interesting issue to discuss, the fact that in the end that, I mean, it does have some requirements here. Like if you go through each bullet, you could make comments about, like, starting with the last one, to have researched and developed a climate action plan. Now, it doesn't say it's developed. It doesn't say to adopt. You could have the word adopt in there to do it. It's still a plan, but one could have some stronger verb in there if they wanted to go that far, versus the fact that, okay, we prepared a plan. It does have in the last paragraph that that we actually make calls to elected officials to support certain legislation that and send notice of this resolution to places that's there. But even with the town administrator should be responsible to community the critical need. Now, one doesn't say the town do. It doesn't say things like the town should include the equivalent of a carbon price when they make investment, when they make capital decisions, or that when they're doing capital budgeting, that they should think about climate action, even if they don't include a price. There are action items that can make it a little more teeth.
Yeah, I agree with that, Michael.
And whether it's our job, whether we consider it our job to just sort of talk to them about the spectrum between this kind of a softer thing versus adding more teeth along the way, whether that's something worth having as a discussion with them.
So I like that point.
Decide.
I like that point of adding more teeth along the way, because maybe this is simply just a stepping stone towards that, rather than trying to roll everything into, you know, one proposal, you know, warrant article. I don't know the exact legal terms for these things. You know, this will be a stepping stone for when we do want to then propose, given that we've now adopted this kind of resolution, a stricter building code, or restrict investments to, you know, a certain scope outside of fossil fuels, what have you. You know, this kind of gets things moving. It provides kind of a strength and basis for, you know, subsequent proposals.
I think also that, you know, if we look, first of all, at the last paragraph before the bullets, the last sentence, the town meeting recommends. So all these are recommendations. And I also think what Brad's saying is right. I mean, you look at the first bullet, a lot of the things we're talking about, you know, from finance to planning to other things, can be put under that bullet without having to anticipate everything that should be done there.
I was going to highlight the same thing, that sentence, once declared, town meeting recommends consider taking further action. So it's you know, there's no teeth per se, and I kind of like that language. You know, it's the ask of the town, as I'm reading this, is just make this declaration. Just, you know, make it a priority, and then, you know, leave the details to figure out
Yeah,
in
and they
due
won't.
time.
And
Well,
I doubt they will.
I see that as this committee's job.
Well, but we don't have the power to ensure that all departments within the town, you know, keep climate change a priority, you know, among their departments.
We can only ask.
Well, no, you could have something like this that gets voted on and agreed that already has in there. You will consider, not that, you know, that it is a priority.
Maybe it gives us, I mean, I've gone back and forth about how much teeth should be in this versus whether to have a few little actual items that have teeth versus whether we just want this as a general recognition that there's a climate crisis and that the select board should do things to address it. And then the teeth comes later when if we had a specific recommendation on a building code, but that has to go before the town anyway. But in terms of including a climate change issues or carbon tax when we do our capital budgeting, is that if this thing was in place just as a more broader statement that some teeth could be applied if the select board says, okay, given that we've declared this crisis and we're supposed to do these things, the select board would feel like it was given the guidance to actually then vote for something that had teeth, because this was in place as a background document.
I think that's how these are being used in other towns. I think you just articulated exactly how they're being used elsewhere.
So none of them have teeth. They're all just basically, it's a background platform so that then specific items. I mean, I guess it'd be interesting to see if any town warrant has any teeth to it, like adopting, like it just says in the third bullet. It says like list of projects that reduce through the adoption of more rigorous building codes. Like I have a little, yeah, I mean, I have a little trouble with some fuzziness there. Right. Because you're not going to put in, solar is not going to be part of unless you wanted to have a building code that said it had to be solar ready. Like you put the lightings all on one circuit. Right. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that, but some of the stuff on heat pumps, yeah, I guess it's a little, I struggle with how that gets doing, but maybe I just have to step back and think about, I mean, I have to think a little more of whether it's just a platform piece that, and then as I just repeated, we just get more specific.
Piece, but that third paragraph talks about building codes, but then immediately as an example has education on EV cars and government rebates. That's not a building code.
Right, that's what, it's a mishmash of stuff in that third bullet.
Right, and we could just say to them, that's going to create some confusion. So maybe you want to think of a different way of saying building codes or something.
Or just ask them what they're trying to get at.
Yeah.
Ask them what they meant by it, and to think about and ask for their clarification of it, because maybe there are two separate things here. Pursue an equitable and just transition to it. You can ask them what they think that might mean.
That's where I think Tom's suggestion makes a lot of sense. Let's see if Ellie will come in and meet with us and talk it through. And be good education for her in terms of, oh, wow, look at that. Building codes are not the same as EVs. Okay, got it. I think it'd just be a good, I think it'd just be a good thing. And she's very open. She was over here getting our signatures, and we talked for like a half an hour about where do you go from this.
How many kids are actively involved at the moment?
I don't know. Dorothea, do you know that?
Let me look at it's the kids from the political subcommittee, And I think you guys should know something similar has been proposed in Dover. So both, there were students that worked on the Dover submission, and students that worked on the Sherborn, I think, are Ellie and somebody else. And in Dover, it's Angela Lynn, who's the co-chair of this sustainability.
I don't really need to know the names. All I would suggest is that in terms of whether we do anything at the moment is that we invite them, that we don't have to say anything more than we invite them to the next meeting or the meeting after. And I don't know how quickly this goes before and make sure we meet before the select board so we can make some sort of this general vote before it goes to before the select board or the advisory. I'm not sure which.
Well, it usually goes to advisory first, so you got to get out that calendar that Jeannie's already posted and work backwards.
Okay, well,
I think we should have them come next meeting.
Yeah. I'd like to get it, but what I was going to get at with the kids is I'd like to see. I would feel better if we get not just Ellie, but we get the 2 kids for the Sherborn and the Dover ones.
I agree.
I would like to get as many kids as possible.
Yeah,
I agree.
Find a time that works, because I think it's an education for both sides, and I don't want to limit it.
I agree.
I agree.
And the main writer might have been one of the Dover kids. So
whatever it is, I think that all the kids, the 4 of them, let's say if there's 2 from each town or whatever. I think if we're going to spend the time to bat this around, let's get the biggest audience possible for all of us.
And Dorothea, with your connection to them, Dorothea, would you be the one to invite them?
Yes, I can do that. And I will copy, shall I just copy Michael on it or everybody?
Why don't you copy everybody's?
Everybody. Okay. So you guys will be probably in a string where like people debate times when to meet, but
we'll have to do it, or we'll do a doodle.
Okay.
You don't have to do it.
Do a doodle.
Do a doodle. We could have a special meeting just to see if it works.
Well, I can let you know that if the times of these high school students is very limited. So if we want to meet them, it's probably up to them rather we giving them time.
So we're going to have a special meeting for whenever it is. We're not going to tie it to anything that, unless we want to just come up with a fix as to our next meeting. But I have no idea what time of day works for these people.
Yeah, after school sometime in the evening, sometimes they have evening things going on. If you want to get 4 people in one room,
we could always hope.
Yeah.
Okay. And feel free to do, I think it's called the doodle thing, or
it is.
Let's see what it is. Okay. So nothing more. We'll just hopefully meet with them maybe later this month, the beginning of February, which would be hopefully before they have to go before anybody.
Right.
The advisory committee meetings regarding warrant articles are March 2nd and 9th. So
okay,
as of now, at least.
March
when is
2nd.
it, say it again.
March 2nd and March 9th. And I think they typically go in order, not always.
And so this would be at the end as usual, right?
At the end. So most likely it'll be the 9th.
Okay.
They might schedule more meetings too as it gets closer and goes along.
Okay, so
you want to stay close to both advisory and select board to find out.
But I guess we could try to go.
Agendas.
Do we want to get this? Are they going to try to go before the select board as well as advisory? I can't tell what.
You have to if you want to get the select board support.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. And you want that in the final warrant that's written that the select board voted 5-0 to support.
Well, just so you know what they've been doing last year, which is over the last 2 years, there's been this, I think, I'll talk to them that I think that their process has gotten deconstructed, because it used to be that the select board would hear and vote on things before it went to the advisory. Then last year was the most clear thing where they didn't vote on anything until they all voted together on that final public hearing day. And so the select board didn't weigh in any definitive manner, if I got it straight, and could correct me, until the very end. Whereas in previous times, we used to get the select board, like say for Conservation Commission budget, I'd go to them and get it approved at the select board earlier, then go to advisory and see if we could get it. But now everybody keeps pushing it down the line till at least the select board stuff seemed to be getting put off. I mean, I could see some pros and cons to this thing, but so we'll see whether, but I guess, okay, so you're going to get a meeting. Do we need to talk about anything more about this today other than just get a meeting with them?
With the goal of like giving some feedback and to prepare them for the upcoming select board and advisory board meetings, right?
And to get clarification. We'd like to hear more from them about clarifying some of the.
Can I make a suggestion? I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gino or Michael, I think at those normal advisory select board meetings, the proponent gets 5 minutes to give their little pitch. So even though this is just informal dry run, I would suggest they do the same, and then we have a conversation about it.
Well, that's not true at the select board meetings.
It's supposed to be true at the select board meetings, but honestly, I've never seen them impose it and say, that's your 5, you're done.
But I think you can go to the select board ahead of time and say, here's an article that I'd like to talk to you about. Yep. Doesn't have to be, I don't think it would have to be that rigid if for something like this.
No, you're right, town meeting's the most rigid, but there's some formality as well.
Yeah, there's a formality for the advisory big public hearing. There's formalities even earlier, but there's the absolute formality is at the public hearing that advisory has to go through for the final votes. That comes later, and then a town meeting. But I think prior to that, I mean, they should prepare some concise presentation, but I think for a topic as broad as this, that
all I'm suggesting is they should try to sell us first with some talking points.
Okay, that's I guess what.
Just a suggestion.
Yeah, no. Whether Dorothea wants to put that, including to use us as a dry run, how much to make that offer to them.
Maybe that's a second meeting. Who knows?
Yeah, we can meet. Right. We don't. This might not. We don't have to do one and all because we then have to decide ourselves and how we're going to support and vote on this as well. Because we're going to have to take a stand. And okay. So is that it for this topic?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Moving on, Gino or Dorothea, do you have anything that you want to update us on?
First of all, there was this question about the petition that came up this week about whether it's possible now or in the future when we have a pandemic to sign a petition via email. And I talked to the town clerk today, and it's not possible. It has to be physical signature on that ballot to be valid.
Okay.
Not surprised.
Yeah, not surprised.
Massachusetts law.
Well, any law, it's hard to make changes.
Yeah.
And for good reason at times. So Gino, are there any updates or either of you, any grant things or whatever? Yes.
Yes, a couple of things. I believe I have the charging station set up to charge now. I worked with the treasurer, or rather the collector, to identify an account that it would go into, set the price at 30 cents per kilowatt hour. I haven't seen anybody use it yet, so I'm not 100% sure it's working to charge people, but
Frank, you better go over there. Frank, Andy.
He might not tell us though, so we can keep getting the free
ride.
Right.
Yeah, so okay, so there's that. I spoke with the consultant working on the geothermal study, and he should have the final report in the next couple of weeks. I met with,
Gino,
Yep.
minutes clarification, geothermal. Which
So
Pine
building
Hill.
is
of Pine Hill.
Pine Hill? Thank you.
I met with Don Fattori and Sean McGee, the new facilities guy, about a potential green community. I thought it was at the middle and high schools, but it turns out to be Chickering. And I said, oh, well, I can help, but I'm not working for Dover anymore. But anyway, their project was to install some variable frequency drives in there, or maybe replace their water pumps with ones that have variable frequency drives. And it wasn't a big project, and they want to do it in the summer. And I said, the applications are due in April, and it's at least 2 months before they make a decision. And then another month after that, it's probably unlikely to get it done in the summer. So they're backed off kind of on that. And they're looking for other projects for possibly the October round.
Do they have any other projects in the schools in their capital budget?
They're looking at the boilers, but not this year. Maybe that might be a project for next year. And I suggest that they consider heat pumps as opposed to replacing the gas boilers.
Right.
They wanted to discuss it with their people, their engineers and such on that.
Did solar on the roofs come in up?
No, I should have mentioned that, but I'm sure they would be interested in that once they rehab the roof or replace it, whatever they're going to do.
Well, we should coordinate the two. I think it's time
absolutely.
to go check on. We're behind, you and I. I mean, I know I'm behind on figure out all the solar projects in the town, but the schools are almost like a separate thing. But I guess we should push. Why don't you go follow up a little bit of where they are on the roofs, so we could do the solar
exactly
at the same time.
I plan to.
Okay.
Also, while not directly part of sustainability, I think we can make a case that, for example, the previous Complete Streets projects that we did built a new sidewalk and a new trail that promotes walking and bicycling as opposed to automobile use. And the next Complete Streets project, which we just got approval for, will build a sidewalk on Sanger Street, which connects the town campus, both sidewalks from that come out from the library onto Sanger Street, all the way down Sanger, and then a crosswalk and connecting to the pedestrian activated signal across South Main Street. And then Dunkin' Donuts, part of their approval requires a sidewalk from the other side of the pedestrian activated crosswalk along South Main Street and then over to their project. And it wasn't part of Dunkin' Donuts, but that island in front of Pilgrim Church, we could, once they do their side, it's just a short stretch to connect down to Farm Road, and Farm Road already has a sidewalk. So that would make a nice link. And I don't know about anybody else, but for 25 years working in town hall, if I needed to go to Citgo or Dunkin' Donuts, I would drive until now. Now it's comfortable. But I was always afraid. It just felt so dangerous before. But now it's very nice, very pleasant. Between the pedestrian crossing.
Gino, I lost you in the middle of that.
Oh, sorry.
You're applying for a new grant to make
we've
those.
gotten a new grant.
You've got a new grant. How much?
It's been awarded.
How much?
It's been awarded $160,000.
I don't think we have to say much in the minutes, other than the fact that we're expanding the sidewalks.
Exactly.
Very good. Now I understand.
Well, it has to do with walkability to town, right? And our sustainable mobility, people can walk more.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not trivializing. I'm just saying that for the sake of
long overdue.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to create that whole thing there. Plus, they seem to be fixing up that area across from the Citgo station, the old foundation, whatever. I don't know what's going on there.
Huh.
They're getting a new drive-through. You know about that, don't you?
No, I'm talking about on the other side towards the community center. There's that
Oh, the
old-
nursery school.
Yeah, but down, but between the parking lot and there is an old, just property. There's just this open space that has an old foundation, I believe, that seems to be getting cleaned up. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I thought
What-
that was the ECDC nursery school.
No.
No, not the old foundation. And
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not quite
I
sure
thought,
what's going on
I
there.
thought that was right next to their playground.
It is next to their playground, but I'm not sure even who owns that property there. I assume
Yeah,
it's
I don't
town,
know.
but whatever. Moving on.
Now, the sidewalk on Sanger is going to be great. I mean, because one of the first words out of my 6-year-old's mouth when she was, 1 or 2 was Dunkin' Donuts. And, I'm in Bridle Path. And so now with that sidewalk and a crosswalk, we could bike up there. I would be comfortable with her, yeah.
Yeah.
Munchkins.
Right. Okay. I'll still bug you. I'll bug you here on the street lights. Do they dim off at midnight or 1 o'clock or something?
yes, I believe it's midnight. They go
Okay.
to 50% power at midnight.
Mine are bright outside my house.
Do they dim? Oh, if you see ones outside your house, see if they dim.
I haven't noticed it at them.
Then we have to. Then something's wrong. They have to be
Yeah,
recalibrated.
we have those. Yeah, they're supposed
They're
to.
much brighter.
Tom, are you awake after midnight?
I get up in all hours of the night.
We won't ask about. But no, they're supposed to dim, and then we have to go check the utility bills so that they reflect that kind of savings. I think midnight. I guess midnight's a pretty good time. They're supposed to go to half. So Tom, you should see. I think they're supposed to go to about half. I only have one near me, but I rarely go there at midnight.
Tom, are you up then? Past midnight?
I tell you, I get up in the middle of the night all the time.
Right. Now we have somebody who can monitor that thing there because
We have our official monitor.
okay, because I want to make sure, and then we can hopefully get the utility bill soon so we can actually see how that's reflected. Okay. Let's see, moving on to what I got here, it's already 5:25. On the, I guess on ongoing some staff stuff and what members are doing, I was going to say we could turn to the climate action plan work and where we are a little on that, but I don't know if I want to give in 2 minutes to have Brad talk about Heat Smart.
Yeah, sure. Do you mind if I just share my screen? I'll do this.
Anybody can always share their screen. You don't have to
Alrighty.
ask me about it.
Okay. Yeah, so I spoke with Bob Zog from the Heat Smart Alliance in late December, and I know, Michael, that you had mentioned him and the Alliance earlier to me, so thank you for informing me of their existence. And I just wanted to chat a little bit to see what type of resources they could provide and just have some of my own questions answered if I get into conversations with residents on considering heat pumps. And so this is a pretty short document. It's only 1 page, but it includes some of my questions that I just kind of wanted to share with the group. And then he actually had a pitch at the end of our conversation to join as a full member or simply as an associate to the Heat Smart Alliance. And there are benefits that come with that. So that's kind of the scope of this. But so briefly, one of my initial questions was, kind of what's the first step that you recommend to someone considering heat pumps? And he said, look to installers who do both ductless and ducted systems. And I had asked about, would it be beneficial to seek out like a third party design firm? And, it was he felt it was an interesting point, but the problem with that was that, if there's an issue with the ultimate system install, it's like, who takes responsibility for that? That wasn't something that I had thought about. Yeah. It's just because I feel that a good amount of the contractors out there, they're still not as well versed in this technology as I wish they would be. And there are design firms that do kind of specialize in this. But then, you know, you kind of have two parties involved in your system design and install, and things can get a little bit muddy. So that was interesting. And then I asked him about, well, you know, what type of solutions are there? I mean, are there kind of all-in-one outfits? And he gave me some links to a few different firms. One of them was Revision Energy, which I had previously shared via email. And they're kind of an all-in-one company. They're interesting. So they'll do home performance assessment, manual J's, blower door tests. They could help with home heating and cooling design. They do heat pumps. They also do solar. And I believe they can do it at the level of industry as well for businesses. So that was a contact I felt was pretty interesting. He also pitched Abode Energy. I think they're out of Concord, and they're very good with design. And then just generally speaking, when it comes to ducted versus ductless, similar to what I've heard from other people, he really pushes for ducted. That really should be your first choice if it is possible, is do a central ducted system. Another question that I had was, sorry.
Brad, I mean, I have 3 heat pumps, 1 ductless and 2 ducted, and I can tell you for sure that the ductless unit is a lot more energy efficient. The downside is that a lot of people, myself included, don't like the way they look.
Yeah.
But as far as providing, you know, the highest level of energy efficiency, you can't beat the ductless units.
So how did you measure that? How did you assess that?
I can by how long it takes to heat up, the R value, not the R value, the what is that measurement that they use?
COP.
For what's that?
COP.
No, there's a calculation that comes with each heat pump that tells you how energy efficient it is.
Oh, HS.
The SEER,
maybe.
SEER, that's it. The SEER numbers are always much higher on the ductless units than the ducted units.
So that's, yeah, I mean, that's the nameplate rating under laboratory conditions. But what we found is that empirically out there in the field, it's a different story. And David Green kind of attested to this too, that, you know, ducted setups, you know, in the field, and he has firsthand experience with this. They seem to, on average, outperform the ductless setups. I mean, there's all sorts of parameters, Andrew, that, you know, that factor into this in terms of like your individual system, you know, your situation, you know, that's true. But for your typical install, you know, it may not be true. And heat distribution is something that's often forgotten about when it comes to designing. I mean, heat distribution is almost as important as the efficiency of the you know, of the actual heating and cooling system.
Sure.
So it's complicated, you know, and it's and that's why, you know, I figured I'd talk to him, because, you know, he knows a lot more than I do. But I have my own empirical experience, and you know, the people that I've spoken with, generally, you know, it also depends on your level of insulation too. Right. But you know, for what it's worth, this is what he stated, and this is consistent with David Green has said, and it's also pretty consistent with what I've read online with the Green Building Advisor community. So, you know, take it for what it's worth. But yeah, that's what he relayed to me. And so, you know, kind of kind of dovetailing with that is just, you know, is there kind of a level of poor insulation to a house where you're just like, you know what, the heat pumps won't work for this. situation. And I don't know what he said there. Something, where was it? But yeah, well sealed, well insulated homes, you can get away with a lot of design flaws. And so that's a kind of an important information bite, I felt, which kind of goes back to, I know Dorothy has been, her first push is for mass save, insulation and weatherization. And it does really seem to be, it is the lowest hanging fruit. It does have the biggest impact. It does have the least amount of cost. And it's really kind of a segue into, these other technologies. And, I do get skittish recommending heat pumps to people who have very poorly insulated homes. Yeah. But I think, with certain design considerations, it's potentially possible. It just gets tricky. And again, with poorly insulated homes, if you have one point of heat source, up against the opposite walls, it's going to feel very uncomfortable. And so this is where, maybe a ducted setup would mitigate some of that. But of course, insulation and air sealing when possible would be the optimal choice. It's just sometimes the way the home is laid out, and so many homes in Sherborn, already, having existed for, 40, 50 years, mm-hmm. It's not always easy to improve insulation. It's can be tricky. And so, you kind of have to make compromises here and there. But anyways, I don't want to take up too much time. He finished off with this pitch for membership, in that there's a lot of resources that they have. And he listed a Slack forum and directories of installers, because I was interested in if they've vetted anyone. And he said, formally they do not, but they do have their databases. And you do gain access as either a full member or an associate. And if you're a full member, the commitment is 1.5 hours monthly plus commitment to at least one working group meeting per month, which typically goes about an hour, plus individual projects that you could become part of, or becoming a community coach. The alternative is just being an associate, which, at least for me, I could pull off the associate. I can't do full membership right now. But as an associate, you're non-voting. You're not required to attend meetings, but it's encouraged. And you still have access to the full resources. So, it seems like it's, kind of no risk, high reward for at least becoming an associate. Bob's assertion was that, if you do become a member, you're not doing double duty for some of your own, town committee's initiatives, because, there'll be some synergies between what they're doing for the Heat Smart Alliance and what you guys are doing. And so in the end, maybe it won't actually be that much of an additional time sink. I don't know about that, but, that's what he said. And that he also said that he and Heat Smart Alliance members can present to the town if we do assemble an audience.
You can think about, just so you know, I actually am an associate. I joined it a year or more ago, but then I didn't have time to even go to many of the meetings. That's why I was trying to get you to see if you would talk to them. Yeah, I attended a bunch of meetings a year and a half ago. And occasionally check in when they have interesting speakers. Can
I ask you both, how many members do they have coming to meetings, and are the meetings just educational, or they have projects?
They're educational. Some of it is just going over stuff, but they often have a speaker that could be educational for about a half an hour. And there's anywhere from, let's see, I went to one a month or so ago. It could be 15 or 20 people there. There's a lot of smart people who've been working on this stuff. A lot of guys who are former engineers who are trying to figure out.
Are they all David Greens, or?
Different style. They're more more modest engineer types, not the kind of selling of things and doing things and implementing. But they do a lot of, some of our coaches, people who have spent a lot of time with a lot of households. There's a number of people who have who actually just work with homeowners who are trying to figure out things and working with installers. This issue, I'll just say this issue of whether to work with contractors only versus finding an engineer who does some of the initial design work is a tricky one, as Brad brought up, and where there's a conflict, because right, you can get an engineer to come in and do an analysis. I'm partially at the moment was thinking of, can we find some engineers who do quick house analysis of the heat load and the air conditioning load to just sort of give some rough ideas about what things are, and then you have some guidelines to work with the installers. On the installer side, where there's this group Rodenheiser that works in our area that does a lot of work, that has a very good reputation. One point I was thinking that just to call them up and see what they do, to see how they react to the whole idea. And plus, because it gets complicated. I have some AC. I don't have any AC, but I have hot water baseboard, and which is a tricky problem for people who have hot air and cooling already in place. Then the heat pump has a much different solution than if you have baseboard heat, hydronics, whatever you want to call it, and ducts. So this whole thing of having separate heat pumps spread around and deal with the piping on the outside of your house possibly as a cosmetic, but there's this mixture of solutions that you can have, as well as the fact that the one thing that I found that I wanted to see if the experience is, they do have ceiling mounted registers instead of that big head that mounts on your wall there. Right. That's maybe 4 feet by 9 inches by 12 inches, that there are ones that fit even in the joist base. But you
have to have access to, you have to be able to get access to those, Michael.
Right. So you have to go basically, if you have this, if they run the right way, you get it from the outside, you can go through the same way that you have to get access to a head.
Those are pretty highly, the BTUs on those are pretty highly rated though. So you wouldn't want to stick that in a small room. It would make the place uncomfortable.
On those the ceiling mounted ones?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's some rooms, but I think most people in Sherborn don't have small rooms. But whatever, it's complicated. And so I'll just second a lot of it is, and how much you deal with an installer, or whether you do partially what Andy's done, where you basically you stick it on. I have to go see what Andy's done at some point to see whether you basically
come on by.
We'll have to come by there when Omicron is down,
right?
Or I'll double.
The meeting at Andy's house.
Yeah,
sure, why not?
Or we'll stare through his windows. Yeah, we have to go figure this out.
Yeah, it's just that complexity of it all, where I just wanted to make sure that, you know, if I am asked to relay information to other residents or anyone else here, that I wanted to be as informed as possible. And I do feel that, you know, you really do need design expertise, specific heat pump design expertise. And I'm not convinced that most installers have that, which is, you know, the benefit of you know, kind of first step recommending designer. But then it like you said, it gets complicated in terms of like, well, then the installer needs to be on board with the designer's specifications. And then if there's a problem, who's responsible? And so
Brad, gets expensive.
Yeah.
Well,
the more people you have to hire, the more expensive it is.
Well, we don't know, right? The question is, that's the thing we haven't seen through, is what are they going to charge to do that kind of basic few $1,000 design and spec thing? And then it's like speccing out a house. Here's the specs, they spec the equipment, the installer comes in and puts the equipment in. The installer might have a lower price because they don't have to do all of that upfront work, the heat load and whatever else. So it's a different model than what installers are left with now. But there are installers who are very experienced because they've done hundreds of installations.
Sure are.
And so therefore, it's not clear to me that you couldn't rely on an installer. But
you would think an industry that's about to just take off, or, you expect it to take off, you would think that, like the whole construction industry, you have architects and you have builders, and there's different arrangements, but everybody has their expertise. But it sounds like this industry is still too young and those things haven't sorted out.
Well, the incentives are supposed to grow this coming year. The incentives for heat pumps are supposed to actually get a little better. So there'll be a spur to the industry, and it might be interesting to try out the two. I'd be right. I tend to be where there are firms that are just that kind of do the heat load and spec it out, and then the AC guys just come in and plunk in what it is that the designer and it's on. Just like when you do a new house, you sit there and worry about, okay, somebody designed the how many BTUs your furnace is, your boiler is. And although it's a little different with a new house than a renovation, so it gets a little tricky. But yeah, so there's pros and cons probably, and probably either one of them can work and either one of them can go wrong. But okay,
and again, just pitching that Revision Energy once more, because they do it all, so that might be kind of an out.
Yeah, but that's the same as their Revision Energy is, I think, if I remember, related to somebody we've seen. They're like a contractor. I'm not sure I see the thing there, but I think we had talked about them with somebody else, and they might be akin to like a Rodenheiser, that they're basically an installer that just has that, but they have more than just that. They do solar as well as others. Yeah, I mean, they're a large entity.
Yeah.
So
they do. They do it all. They must have a designer, somebody in there.
Right.
Absolutely, they must.
Yeah, maybe that is a better model versus the separate ones. But okay, to be talked about. Okay. So we're going to wrestle with that kind of thing there. I don't know how we're going to go forward with this thing. It's like that whole case of we've never gotten going ahead with our hot water heat pump. Getting a handful of us to do that, or we haven't gotten our informal solar group, and I don't know where we go with the heat pump stuff. It's part of our residential program. What we're going to suggest I know that the mass save audits, the companies that come in will recommend a number of other firms. They'll generally recommend Rodenheiser or something like that, companies that have done hundreds of them. Whether they also have to go recommend, I don't know who are besides Revise, but I'm trying to figure out who actually is an independent analyst. Like I think there's Zen Energy or some group even right here in downtown Sherborn, off of Powder House, whatever it is, behind the Sherborn Liquor in the bank there. I think there's a company that just does that kind of energy stuff. Maybe it's worth talking to them.
And then Abode actually educates contractors, installers on design. So they would, potentially have lists of
right. And maybe they do that. Yeah, they have a whole contract with Concord to do heat pump reviews. Right. They're an interesting group, where they have a subgroup that just does household. It'd be interesting to ask them, talk to them. I mean, I'd like to go see what the cost is just to get an household and spec out what they would charge to spec it out. Because I assume you can get a HVAC contractor to charge less for installing it if they don't have to do all the upfront and they're not taking the liability. And the liability is with the the firm that specs it all out. And so it might not cost more. And maybe you get somebody who's more open to all the different options, as opposed to being a Mitsubishi supplier, even though I know Heat Smart Alliance tends to work with suppliers, but but it's come up in a meeting, I think the last meeting, this whole model of having a firm, like an engineering firm, that just specs it all out and then gets it installed, is a model that's out there that just hasn't been used a lot. It's part of something in Vermont, I think, that's been done. It's getting a little late. Let's see what else. The climate action plan, whether there's anything to report now, or we just all need to talk a little bit more and go over this issue of talking with Acton. And do we want to take any time to say anything to the committee now, other than more thinking is being done?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. We have talked to Acton. We got a price that they paid for their plan, which was pretty much as robust as Concord's. Not something that we need to go that deep on, but a great model. And both Concord and Acton has said steal copiously from our plans, steal free. But they paid a total of $125,000 for their plan, which is pretty robust. But they got a grant for $100,000 from MAPC, I think it was. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
And then they had 25 from somewhere else. We were thinking of the ARPA money could be a possibility for us because we're going to be looking at 120,000. And we said this before that we really recommend that we look into a consultant to do the heavy lifting on this, because there's quite a bit of heavy lifting when you start getting detailed into what you're actually going to do and what are the cost benefits, the ROI and all of that. So that's in a nutshell. And Frank and Tom, please jump in.
Yeah, I would say that the other thing is that is the journey as well as the final end product. And I think that's really the key, is that, getting the buy-in from all the different groups in our town, and also getting town members. And Dorothy has consistently mentioned, or constantly mentioned, whichever word you want to use, that, getting an advocate from the select board, getting an advocate from advisory, getting an advocate from planning board, and, getting this as a priority item so that it's brought up at every meeting, that there's a lot more visibility made to this. Those are really the things that where we need to have in the action plan, as opposed to just having a plan and then trying to make it happen. And I think the more people, I think Fred also always says that the more people that are buying into it up front will help to make it happen and help to make it successful, as opposed to doing it the other way around, saying, okay, this is the plan now, how do we get everybody to pitch into it? So, I think that's the key thing that we're trying to work on.
Yeah, that is huge. And I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that, because what we found in every other plan we've looked at that looks successful is that the town committees had members involved, so that when the plan came out, it was theirs, not something that got dumped on them in a binder and go make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go.
No, I just want to say, this is my experience in 10 years working with private institutions like universities that have also come up with climate action plans for their own institutions. It's like, if you don't have people on there that finally give money or for measures, or for the top government, like a president of a college, the plan will inevitably shelved or being delegated to a body that cannot, doesn't have any power in terms of dollars or, legislative power. And the governance is actually key in those plans. Who is going to be responsible for ultimately pulling this through? And I guess, we have to wrap our minds around how we find, the resolution that the students started could be a beginning of having a larger conversation about the governance. And maybe we need to have first this committee and then develop the plan, not the other way around.
Yeah, I'm more, I guess the plan to me, right, I guess as I wrote to a few of you, I could see something support and help on how we do the outreach or the consensus or just all the community outreach and meetings. Yeah. The plan itself, right, you could just steal it from, it's all the same stuff. And in terms of even governance though, you can have governance for a town. There's issues to how to get the town energy budget, the municipal, I'll call it municipal to distinguish it between the town residents. The town operations, that you have some say over. And we don't have a tremendous energy use by the town, but it's something that we're getting some grips on anyway. But it's it's how you get the whole buy-in from the residents, and that kind of stuff is much softer, and we can't really, you can't mandate it. I don't know what governance there is there. It's still, so I can't tell. I mean, there's a part of me that says, I don't know, spending $125,000, no matter whose money it is, I don't like it. So there's a part of me that just feels like it's generic. We know it all. I mean, I'm being a little oversimplified and maybe a little devil's advocate. You are. It's like, I mean, when I look at all those tasks from Acton, it's like, fine, there are a whole set of nice tasks to be done. Figuring out, doing the community outreach and seeing who's going to buy into what task and actually do it at the town level is one thing. And then what it means to do it on the residential level is, I'm not sure what it is, and having a nice document buys a lot, other than, I don't know, I'd spend money on getting community outreach and consensus and talking about things, but a document itself, I don't know. I just seen too many plans that just sort of sit there.
And I think that's the exact thing that we're trying to avoid as well. If all you want is just an action plan, then we just copy Concor's our actions. We've listed several that are great exemplars of plans that we can copy, and you can give it to the select board, and you can check that off of our list, and it'll be done. But if we want to make something happen in our town, we want to get citizens involved. We want to get our other boards and make this a priority of our town. Then we need visibility. We need to do something to make this a major thing. And how do you make that happen? And I think that the action plan is the mechanism, is the vehicle that drives that. That's, I guess, my difference from what you're saying.
And I also, we discussed this, Frank and Tom and I, that and I think Dorothea too, that the town may not be the biggest emitter by far. It's not. But if the town isn't visibly taking action, the municipality isn't visibly taking action, then who's the role model here? And I think we just need to include the town in this thing. I think also, Michael, you might be underestimating the amount of work, even if we just steal liberally from other plans, to get this together and to work with the coalition and change it how they see it, et cetera, et cetera. I know for sure I'm not going to volunteer to run it. Who has the time on this committee to take on that level of work? And I'm retired and I don't have the time.
Right. I guess maybe it's too big a topic to keep hammering here at 6 o'clock, but maybe we have to make it a focus next time. Because I mean, I can't tell how much to parse it up into the two main things of the town operations and the residents, and to think of what it is that and to not make it right. I mean, the idea of whether we can come up with the short run issues of what the town's going to do for its operations, of whether we need a consultant to help write the fact that what's the pace at which we're going to buy electric cars, or we look at the capital budget plan for the town and go through each item and say, okay, how much of each of these items on the capital budget for the next 5-10 years has energy stuff that we got to make it net zero, and whether we need a consultant to do that versus to sort of drive that process. Maybe, I guess, I don't know. I guess I can't tell how much I just want to get a few action steps and just start doing them. But I guess, how do you get it's even on the residential side, what is it going to take people to do anything to get to half of our emissions by 2030? Is the town willing to spend money where you actually hire like a Bode Energy, I think I can't tell if it was in Concord, where they were almost hired on a monthly basis to say anybody who's doing a new heating or air conditioning system, here's a consultant that we have online, so that you go and you talk to them, so that you probably make it is close to a net zero or heat pump oriented, or that you almost make a service as a community good available, or maybe it's there as a base. We pay them a base, and then you have to pay them for some of their services.
Yeah.
But these kind of, I don't know, something nitty gritty that actually encourages people to do it, other than the sort of like, how are we going to get to half of our energy use by 2030? It's like the electric Harvard. You have the company that just sits there that advises people independently, and you have to pay them $50. I can't remember, it's $50, $100 a consultation. And you say, fine, here's a company. And you just get people to go, I don't know. I can go on, but I guess I'm a little concerned about spending a lot of time and energy on all that. But maybe I'm just being too.
Well, I'd put in that if we don't go the kind of coalition group, then we're just presenting a binder that nobody is going to pay any attention to.
Right,
Simple,
I agree.
Simple as that.
But how do you get, what's the coalition? You're talking about community support.
I'm talking about when developing the plan is the planning board, conservation, forests and trails, you name it, DPW, finance, advisory, et cetera. Do they have representatives here so that when the plan is created and finished, they own it? They own the parts that they, rather than us coming and saying, here's a really good plan. It's sort of Acton's plan with Sherborn put in there. Now go do it. Why? I didn't have anything to do with this.
And even when you get buy-in, I'll tell you, go look at the open space plan. Tom might have some comments about that.
I was
a lot of effort went, a lot of towns, parties bought in, and it's a document sitting there, even with a lot of coalition and a lot of buy-in, because and I mean, I don't know how to make things operational in some level.
Actually, Michael, that's a good example. There's been some action on the open space plan, but not enough. But I'll counter that with the master plan.
Oh yeah, that's what I actually meant to say was that.
Actually, I think there's been a lot done on the master plan, and I actually was not on the planning board, but I was on. They held a series of meetings and created some working groups. I was on the environmental working group, and there was a town center working group and everything. And I think it was a very effective master plan that,
what's going on now with it? What's the aftermath?
New sidewalks and other things.
You think that's a result of the strategic plan, the master plan, or just, somebody at town hall, maybe Gino?
It helped move it along.
I mean, I'm being a little harsh, but I can't tell whether that I meant the master plan. A lot of effort went into it. A lot of collaboration went into it. And it's not like I see somebody, it's that whole next gap of, maybe a little bit of
actually
about the community. Where's each year in front of the select board or town meeting? It's like, here's our master plan. How have we done against the things in the master plan?
I can report, Michael, that at a recent select board meeting, and I'll find out the date, and you can listen to the recording, Marion Neutra organized an update for the select board from the master plan and open space plan, and an update was given to the select board and covered a lot of accomplishments in the 3 years since it was adopted. So
well, that's great to hear, Tom.
There is movement.
Okay. Right.
But I totally agree with what Frank and Fred were saying. If we as a committee just do it, forget.
Oh, no, I'm not arguing that. I'm by no means
forget about it.
Well, maybe this is where the
community.
Maybe this is where the students' warrant article could come in handy if they can get the select board to acknowledge that this is a priority. It all comes from the top. If you don't have buy-in from the top, the department heads aren't going to do anything.
Right.
And they
So
certainly aren't going
Dorothea
to do it
keeps telling us.
because
I've seen it everywhere in every town, and
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. Anyway, I think this is a longer discussion that we need to have, but perhaps we can
fully agreed.
Move on and
The hour is
pick a
late.
date for the next meeting.
When are we, okay, when are we meeting next to continue this discussion? Let's see, where are we here? We're on a Thursday for once. What do we want to go back to?
Tuesdays?
I don't care. Let's see. We have 2 weeks.
Thursdays are hard for me.
Okay.
I move things around for today, but rather not do that.
If we do 2 weeks from questions, we do the last week of January. Although on that Tuesday, we'd have an extra meeting because that Tuesday night, everybody, is a special meeting from the groundwater protection on wells.
Right.
Tuesday, the 25th. Make sure we're all there.
Keep that clear.
Right. Do you want to do it on Wednesday, the 26th?
Works for me.
What? Works for me.
That doesn't work for me.
What?
Well, Wednesdays never work for me.
Oh, never work. Okay. There's the Monday. I can't remember what the Monday issue was.
That was Brad that he has that meeting, so we could start at 4 o'clock, Brad? Does that work? Or was it 4:30?
Mondays, it's a collision with extracurriculars for my kids. Like one kid has something, the other kid has something else. And so I end up attending the meeting while I'm driving. My daughter does swim practice.
That's not good.
No.
So we're dealing with a Tuesday or a Thursday, but Thursdays don't work. So we're dealing with back to a Tuesday. Okay, and we could, right, it could be at 7 to 9. We could do the 25th of the week after. We're just limiting to Tuesday. It's February 1st, which is basically about 2.5 weeks from now.
That's good.
Yeah, that works for me.
Well, the other thing we have to keep in mind is the students.
We're going to have that schedule that separately.
Oh,
but isn't
special meeting?
Oh yeah.
Because I assuming we're going to have a complicated.
Yeah, that's why I'm expecting.
We're going to have some complicated. I can't tell whether to just start right off with a doodle. Once you get some sense from the 3 or 4 kids, what their options are, whether you just do a doodle based on what they give us.
Yeah, get them.
I think it might make sense to throw out a proposal that we know will work for us and see if they can do it. And if not, then we doodle.
Okay, what evening? Okay, let's finish with us first. Are we going to do February 1st at 3:30 or 4?
Either works for me.
Either works for me.
Yeah, either for me.
3:30 is probably preferable because then I can make dinner.
Okay, 3:30 on February 1st. You got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait a minute, guys. I thought January 26th. No, we're talking.
We could do the 26th. You mean the January 25th?
No, what are...
Wednesday doesn't work for somebody.
We're talking about February 1 at the moment.
Okay.
Well, we could do the 20th. We want to try the 25th?
We could do it early. We can do it early.
Oh, that's true.
Oh yeah, we could do it. I was just joking about not having 2 meetings in one day.
Oh no, I have multiple meetings.
Yeah, I got multiple.
Oh, well, you're very sophisticated.
Very
capable.
stupid.
We want to do.
There's no life.
I have no life.
This is our life. What do you mean?
You want to do it that Monday, the 25th at 3 to give us a little bit of
Tuesday. We're talking.
Excuse me, Tuesday the 25th at 3 instead of 3:30 or 4. So there's a little bit of a gap between that and then the
3:30 to 5. You get 2 hours before the 7 o'clock.
Yeah,
right.
Fine.
Oh, so you want to do 3:30 to 5? Okay, on the 25th.
And we won't go long. Do we want to move it to the 25th?
Sure.
January 25, 3:30. We said.
Yeah.
I might be a little bit late on that day. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Okay.
I wouldn't change it for
3:30. Okay. Okay, Gino, things have changed. Now, what do we want to tell? What's your sense, Dorothy, about the kids? Do they have
My
late
sense is
afternoon or
that-
early evening kind of time?
Yes, but I cannot, you know, if you want to get 4 people together, always seemed to be almost impossible. But I will extend this to the 4 of them, and then we'll see if they're interested and want to do that. I will highly recommend that they do meet with us. And then I will see, I mean, their first meeting is March 2nd or 7th, right?
Well, hopefully they go to the select board before then.
They go to the select board. Do you guys have a sense when the select board meeting is?
I think they could go on anytime, probably.
They can go on any time. Okay.
Those are Thursday nights, starting at
Yeah.
7 typically.
Okay. Then we will offer this rather than a voluntary kind of like dry run, prepping them for what's ahead.
Okay.
So you have to give them something, you know, to work with and to have that as an advantageous situation, and we'll see what works for them. I think evening.
Okay, fine. So we're not going to give any guidance. We'll just see what works for those guys and see what works for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Are we done?
Yep,
Okay.
Motion to
I'm
adjourn.
done. I gotta go.
Yes. 6:09, move to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded.
A bunch of people seconded. Okay, any discussion?
Michael,
Michael, I, Fred,
hi,
Frank.
did I not come?
Hi.
I was expecting Brad to answer for you, Fred.
I'm listening very acutely.
You guys get
whenever.
yourself straight here.
I always agree with him anyways. So
I
it's
would
fine.
like chaos. I would prefer chaos here. Let's see. I think we had Fred. Did we have Frank?
Yes.
Andy?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Okay, we're out of here at 6:09.
Great.
Okay, thanks
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
We'll have
Take
fun.
care,
See you
everybody.